Welcome. My name is Gregory Thayer from Rutland. This is Vermonters for Vermont initiative, and this is Conversations with Gregory. Let me explain why I'm at Okemo Valley Access Television. I do a show regularly in Rutland on PEGTV, but a couple of the candidates down here in the Windsor area asked me about doing shows with them. So we're here, and I'm lucky to have as my first guest here in Ludlow at Okemo Valley, VL Coffin from Cavendish. Thank you for coming and welcome.
Well, thank you, Greg. Appreciate you doing this, having me here on your show. It gives me a chance just to talk, be seen, and hear from the people.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty excited about your campaign. I've been watching you since, April when we first met, and I think you're doing a great job. You were in a debate a couple weeks ago I came down for in Weathersfield, your district. Your district is Weathersfield, Cavendish, and Baltimore.
Yes.
So it's a 3-town district.
Yes.
And so you're talking to a lot of people. And at that debate, I thought you did very, very well. And I can be critical.
Well, thank you, because I thought I didn't do so well. I was nervous.
Yeah, well, I didn't see that. It didn't purport. It didn't come out. And I say critical, I mean in a constructive criticism to make it better, because I need constructive criticism all the time, and I get nervous. It's just it's a human thing. And I've been doing this a long time. Probably 20 years I've been doing TV shows.
Yes, and I've told people while I've been campaigning is if I'm wrong, tell me.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm right, tell me. Help me out. Help me to get better, because I can't help people if they don't tell me what they want.
Communications.
We need that to be a representative of the people. You need to know the people. You need to hear from them, and not just hear but listen.
Yeah, I support communication, transparency, and respect. And you may not agree with everybody, and we don't 100%. But it's about giving information, learning from what's going on, and being respectful in the delivery. And when you don't want people calling us names and getting personal, because that doesn't help any. That shuts me down. I just want to get away when they So, but let's talk about VL a little bit and your background. Are you born and raised down here?
No, I was born in Maine.
Nice.
And when I was a young child, my parents moved down to New Jersey because that's where the work was. And unfortunately, they got divorced. So my mom stayed down there with 5 of us children. My dad came back up here to New England. When I was in 1990, I joined the Army.
Nice. Thank you for your service.
I wanted to serve the country. I was having some personal issues.
We all go there.
To serve the country. So September 26, 1990, I left for basic training. Finished basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Went to my first duty station in Germany, Hohenfels, Germany, where I eventually met my last wife. And we were married for 19 years.
Wow.
We transferred duty stations to Fort Campbell. I served with the 101st Airborne.
Where's Fort Campbell now?
Kentucky.
Kentucky, okay.
After active duty, we went back to New Jersey for a short time. In 96, I came back. I came up to Vermont to work with my father. He owned a trucking company at the time. And in 97, my family followed when we found a home, our first home in Bellows Falls. And then after I got off, just before I got out of the military, I moved up to Cavendish.
Nice.
Right after September 11th, I put my uniform back on and joined the Vermont Guard.
Oh, really?
I served with the Vermont Guard till 2017.
Wow. Good for you. Thank you. You have quite a military background experience.
Yes, I was a battalion motor sergeant when I left. Before that, I was battalion ammunition during Task Force Sabre in Iraq. I had a lot of great people that worked for me some that still are in the Guard. One, she is probably become one of the finest master sergeants I've ever met, one of my soldiers. So I'm proud of the people that I helped train that
Nice.
became better leaders.
That's a testament of you and your leadership, and that's what we need in Montpelier, is good, common sense thinking leaders like yourself.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Well, that's what I hope to be, as a moderate, as a voice that can work together with others. On my civilian side, where I work, I'm part of the union committee, so we do a lot of dealing with management, dealing with the union, finding ways to compromise, to work together, to make both a better place to work and keep the business profitable. And we need that in Montpelier. We need the compromise. When I first decided to run for office, it was mostly because of the supermajority, and it's not that I have a problem with either side or the Democrats or whatever. It's a supermajority is not good for any republic.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad
Whether
you said
it be a Republican or a Democrat supermajority, it's not good for either side because there's no balance.
Yeah.
And that's part of the executive branch, is supposed to have balance so they can work together so that every voice gets heard.
Yeah.
And you don't have one side making all the rules.
Yeah.
You find compromises.
That was my next question, was why are you running? But I think you just answered that pretty eloquently. I really do. So it's about having balance, and there's no balance up there. So what type of things are you hearing from voters when you're knocking on doors and out at the marketplace?
They're worried about the increasing property taxes. That's a major one. They're worried about the clean heat standard, how it's been passed, and what it's going to be voted on in January because it was overridden. That the costs on the home heating oil are going to force Vermonters out where they can't afford it. If they can't afford to put heat pumps in, if they can't afford to change their heat systems or upgrade or get their windows done. I know that there's programs out there for that, but there's only so much money. There's only so much time.
Yeah.
To make things work, it's 177,000 heat pumps that have to go in.
That's across the state.
That's across the state.
Yeah.
10,000 heat pump water heaters. We don't have the manpower to put that in. That would be installing 97 heat pumps a day, every day of the year.
Across the state. That's a lot.
We don't have the people for that. And then if you can afford it, and you'll get a rebate, but you have to put the money up front. I spend my nights bringing pellets into the house because I burn pellets. I have a heat pump system. I know it doesn't keep my 50-year-old house warm enough.
Yeah.
And the electric bill.
Well, there's some reports coming out now that were promulgated through this bill that talks about the cost and how expensive and what it's going to cost people on top of their already fuel bill. We'll use fuel. Mm-hmm. So fuel right now to heat your home is about $3.50 a gallon.
Right.
And this could increase your fuel bill per gallon by could be up to $4.02 a gallon. That's over $7 a gallon. How can people afford that, VL?
Well, I don't know, because it's simple math. We have in Vermont a 2-cent excise tax on fuel heating oils right now, propane and gas and diesel. That brings in, on the diesel, on the home heating oil, brings in $2 to $2.5 million for the home heating oil. So to raise $2 billion a year to get to that $10 million in the first 5 years, you can do the math on it.
Yeah.
You're talking $1.70 at a minimum upwards of. And I don't see how people can afford that. People are worried about being able to afford it. And I don't blame them. I've had friends that have already left the state.
Because of this?
Because of this, because of the taxes. A dear friend of mine, Vicky, she lived up the other side of Woodstock. I won't say where because
That's fine.
privacy.
Yep.
But she left because her and her wife left because they couldn't afford the property taxes anymore. Their property taxes doubled over the last 7 years.
We're losing good people, VL.
She was an award-winning baker, a comedian,
Yeah.
and we lost local talent.
Yeah.
We lost local business. All right, just business costs. Think when we say the clean heat standard and they talk about the heating fuels, there's a business here in Ludlow that, based on the propane they use, you're talking almost $200,000 a year added cost to their production, which is anywhere from 20 to 40% of the revenue stream. That hurts. That hurts everyone.
The Efficiency Vermont just came out as well and said that this plan isn't efficient and isn't going to work. But I think Efficiency Vermont would like to go right to the carbon tax. And I think the big point here that a lot of people don't understand is that what's going on is that they want to electrify Vermont. They want no fuels, no fossil fuels, propane, gas. And at some point, wood burning, chopping wood and burning wood is probably going to get on this list. Right now, it's not there. But that's going to be an issue because that, in their mind, that is burning a lot of CO2. But there's CO2. We need CO2, don't we?
Yes, plants need CO2 to survive.
That means we need, because we depend
They make
on
oxygen. So
Yeah.
it's a circle. But if you think about, Vermont has a population I wrote down because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget. Vermont's got a population of 647,000, okay? Our land mass is, total square miles is 9,616 square miles. That's 9,216 acres of land, and then you figure in our water, okay? Our percentage of the world population is 1/1000th% of the world population. We create 1/100th% of the greenhouse gases. Vermont right now, by the own auditors, okay, in 2022, Vermont generated almost 100% of its electricity that it generated in the state with renewable sources. We used 3.4 times more energy than we produced. But what we produced in Vermont was already renewable, okay? That contributed to us to having the lowest carbon emissions among all of the states.
all 50.
All 50 states. We are already doing our part. Can we do more? Yes. But getting to net zero is not going to stop the next storm. It's not going to stop the next floods. It's not going to change what China does. The U.S. as a whole dropped its carbon emissions by 2.26% last year. China increased theirs by 6.6%. They're already almost three times the U.S. output.
They're building coal power plants all over China.
Yes.
And they keep getting a pass on the Paris Climate Accords, whereas while we were out, now we're in. Mm-hmm. It depends on what happens in the federal election for president, if we'll be in or out.
I'm saying that.
Yeah, well, we get a vote.
Yeah.
We do get our one vote.
Get our one vote.
And that's good, and that's the Constitution at work. But But there's so much going on with this, and there's going to be a big discussion in January when the study comes back that was promulgated by Act 18, the Clean Home Standard. Yeah. So, but moving on to the economy. Yeah. Did you open your tax bill recently?
I did.
It hurts. Did you fall down?
I didn't fall down because I expected it. Had I not started running for office, I probably wouldn't have noticed, or I wouldn't have known there was that big of an increase coming. But after I started running for office, I started looking at things more closely. I knew it was coming. I was bracing for it.
Roughly percentage-wise, how much did it go up? 3%, 15%?
Over 13%.
Yeah.
I essentially added a fifth quarter to my taxes.
Yeah, because excuse me, the most people about 13, 14% statewide, but there are some communities went up 40% and 30%.
Oh, yeah.
Some did go down, in fairness, but it's they're spending money, and a lot of it has to do with what happened with COVID and all the free money. It's never free, people. We received as a state, and all these different programs were adopted and put into place at the local level. And so they don't want to get rid of these programs. They weren't temporary. And so now we have all these new programs, and they have to be funded. So how does that get funded? On your property tax bill, the school portion, there's a lot of it. That's what went up. When we're talking here about your property tax bill, it's about the school portion, not the municipal, the town portion.
Well, the clean heat standard is going to affect our property taxes as well, because of the way we fund our schooling.
Yeah.
A rise in heating costs. It's not just the home. Like I said, it's schools that heat with oil.
Right.
Schools that heat with propane are going to be facing this extra charge as well.
Yeah.
That comes out of the taxpayer pocket. And the legislators that we currently have should be treating the money that comes into the state with more respect. They forget that it's our money. It's the people's money.
Right.
It's not theirs to give away.
It's
not theirs to do that with. They don't say, we need more, so we'll just take more from you so we can give it out again. That I have a hard time with that. Of all the things that people said to me while I've been campaigning and I've been knocking on doors, and I've had people tell me, I'll vote for you if you do this, or I would do this, or I'm not going to vote for you because of whatever reason. Not a single person has said to me, I'm only going to vote for you if you take more of my money. No one has said that to me.
No.
If they did, I would have to question sanity, but not a single person. And that's why, for the most part, I funded my own campaign, because I didn't believe that taking money from people, asking people to pay me to interview for a job that they're already going to pay me for. I've never been to a job interview that I asked the employer to pay me to show up.
It's not just the heating and electrifying Vermont and the property tax. It's also, they raised our DMV's fees by 20% across the board. The Department of Agency of Transportation said, we don't need this money. We're not asking for this money. But the legislature, the leadership, they wanted it for some of their programs. They also instituted a payroll tax, never been done in the state of Vermont or across the country, but a payroll tax that is paid by us at 25%, 75% by employers to raise money for universal daycare. And some of the problems with that is that you can be making, I think it's like 550% of the poverty level and get that subsidy. Same thing with the school lunch programs. Again, that's like a 500 up to 100 and I think 70,000, but it was reduced to like $130,000 a year, and all children are getting free lunch. So you've got a couple or even just a family, husband and wife, whatever, making that kind of money, and they're getting free lunch when they can more than afford it. Mm-hmm. I understand helping people, but we need to help the people, down here to help them lift them up, because we're, so what do you hear? Are you hearing anything about any? And the other thing they did is they voted themselves a raise, and it was vetoed, yes. But then the veto never was heard, of the 7, was never heard when they had the veto session day in, I think it was June 15th, or like that Monday the 17th, because they pulled it and put it back on the wall, right, in the committee room. So it never, never got a due.
If that comes up this year or next year, any session that I'm in, I'm going to vote no.
For a legislative pace?
For a legislative pay increase. I don't see it. You don't ask for a pay raise when you're not doing your job, which is...
And people are hurting.
When people are hurting, when people are struggling, you don't ask to spend more of their money on you.
And it wasn't
right.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a pay raise. They wanted to implement benefits for the legislators. And it's like they're supposed to be under the Constitution. They're right. Supposed to be there a couple of months, and it's a citizen legislature.
Yes.
It's not a job. It's not a job. It's a citizen legislature. And I don't know. I support term limits even in that building.
It's civil service. It's
right.
A service to the community. Yes, we do. There is a pay for it. But that pay, you know what it is when you take the job. And it is that. So you shouldn't be looking to 3/4 raise your pay by 75%,
yeah,
and then ask for more benefits and vote it to yourself.
And then create all these new tax streams that people can't afford there.
That is essentially trying to vote yourself money. So
we talked about a lot of the big issues, and I believe crime is a big issue, and not just crime, but you've got crime, and then coupled with that is the mental health issue, which is a big issue that needs to be addressed, and it's not. And then you have all the theft within the crime, the drug abuse, the fentanyl. And we see more on the national level, but it's happening here in Rutland, where I'm from. We see it all the time, Burlington, but you see it in other smaller communities too. Are you hearing any talk on the campaign trail about crime and fentanyl and mental health?
Yeah, and that, where they overrode the veto for the, for lack of a better word,
safe injection sites. Yep.
That is a drug enabling site.
Yeah.
Okay. They say, oh, it saves lives. What saves lives is getting people off drugs, but they have to want to. I know something about that. I struggled with drug addiction prior to joining the military. I got clean through traditional means, through counseling, through willpower, through wanting to, but the person, each individual has to want to become clean. Each person, you have to have a goal or a reason to. The reason can't be, oh, well, I'll take 2 weeks in rehab so I don't have to go to jail. That's not the reason.
Right.
You need to want to better yourself, and we have to give our young people a reason to better themselves. They need to understand we need to bring back trade schools.
Yeah.
We need to bring back the trades, get people interested in welding and masonry and carpentry, and build the businesses there. We need to encourage business growth in the state so that the young people, the people that are struggling, the people that don't see a good reason to come off drugs because there's nothing going to happen. There's nothing to do. There's no job. We need to create that. We need to make that happen. And it's not by saying, here's a safe place to use, bring in the illegal drugs you bought, we'll test it, and then let you use it and continue to be addicted. It's maddening. I'm proof that you can change your life, that you can do something better with your life if you want to. So it's painful to me, but yes, it takes mental health, it takes the rehabilitation all together in a full approach, not a substitutive approach.
In your journey, if you will, to sobriety, was family a big part of that?
Yes, I had a supportive family.
That's huge.
What was even more huge is I had supportive friends. I found out who my friends were, the ones that encouraged me to get clean or the ones that didn't want to talk to me anymore because I wasn't using anymore. It makes a difference.
So we have probably about 7-8 minutes left, and I'm looking at your card. I don't know if the camera can screen in on this. There's old VL right there. And you've got in here getting political agendas out of the schools.
Yes.
Let's talk about, you're talking about critical race theory and some of that stuff.
All of that. We need to enable our teachers. And I loved school. I enjoyed school. And our children should. We need to enable our teachers to be able to focus on math, reading, writing, history, social studies, learning the Constitution, all of these things. Bring back shop classes. Home ec. I learned to cook in school. I learned to sew in school. I learned to weld in school.
So schools are expensive.
Yes.
When I had former Governor Douglas on today. When he was governor, there was about 104,000 students across Vermont in public education. Today, and that was only, 20 years ago. Today, there's like 88 or 82,000. We'll say 88,000. So, there's a lot of talk around the state. I've toured the state a lot, talking to a lot of people. And there's talk about closing some high schools and consolidating to one school within different towns and districts and stuff. And you hear a big cry. They don't want to lose their school. People don't want to lose their school. It's really a community center. But I've heard this, and I think you were there the other night in Ludlow for the Senate debate and the House, Kevin Winder, that keep the local elementary schools open, consolidate the high schools. What are you hearing relative to that?
In my district, we don't want to close schools. I don't want to see the school close in Cavendish. I don't want to see the school close in Weathersfield.
You're talking elementary and
all of our schools.
Yeah.
We need the schools to be close to where the families are. It's hard to attract young families into a town or a village if they have to go an hour for school. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. But that raises costs of keeping all these schools open. So what was that Act 46 that was supposed to do school consolidations, which isn't working, working.
It's not. And I believe it was Act 60 that started this back in 97.
Yep. Yeah, with the Brigham decision.
That was supposed to lower costs.
Yeah.
It didn't.
It didn't.
All right. We have had one study after another to lower the costs and yet to find something that works. So we need fresh eyes on it. We need a different outlook to try to find new ways to fund our schools that don't drive us out of. We need a taxpayer bill of rights that's going to limit how much the state.
That's on his card too. Taxpayer bill of rights
can take from us.
Yeah.
And start living within their means. The legislators.
It's working in Colorado. Yes. So we've covered a lot, but in 10 seconds, because I got one other thing I want to get to with you, but in 10 seconds, are there any committees up in Montpelier when you're elected that you'd like to sit on?
I don't know yet.
Don't know?
I don't know enough about the committees to know which one.
Okay, that's fair.
When I get elected, when I go through my training there, I'll see more of them. I'm just going to be happy to serve wherever the people allow me to.
Right, good. So you have a hidden talent that I saw on the Windsor County Republican page. You were at a public event, and we talked about it here with Patrick and Rebecca about how you got into making. I don't want to get into that long story because we only have a minute and a quarter left here, but you make animals. And I asked you to bring some balloons with you.
I did.
And he's got some. So let's make something. I don't want to make it because we'll be here for months. All right, here we go, VL. He learned this in his days in the military when he was serving in Russia?
In Germany.
Germany. So.
Yeah, they politicians are full of hot air.
Oh, here we go. You're
So, yeah,
what are we making?
I'm gonna make a parrot.
Parrot.
Yeah.
Maybe Patrick's got some magic markers in there we can color him. Oh.
Under my book.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I actually enjoy making this.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I used to make balloon animals for the children. A lot of times I go out and then I think I'm gonna start campaigning, and then I see a family and I just decide to make balloons instead, and I just say
You just brought those together.
Yeah. So I like to just make people, sometimes it's just more fun to make people laugh. Sometimes I don't want to talk politics, and I decide I'm not.
As VL is doing that, I'm going to kind of close this out. We're going to keep rolling, so if you want to see the end product. But everybody, thank you for tuning in. Share this with the voters in Cavendish, Weathersfield, and Baltimore. This is VL Coffin asking for your vote for the Vermont legislature. I'm Gregory Thayer. And
Get out and vote November 5th.
He's comfortable now. Thank you all very much. Hold on, give us a couple more seconds. God bless you all and have a great weekend. What's the parrot's name?
I don't know.
Let's call him P-Becca. There we go. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.